What is up, everybody? It is UFC 265, Lewis versus Gane. These are the full card predictions and the betting tips. I cannot wait for this pay-per-view card. I think we're going to see some fantastic fights. Sweet interim title main event. Unfortunately, we did lose that Amanda Nunes fight that I think most of us were pretty ecstatic about. I do really enjoy watching Amanda fight, getting to see the female GOAT go out there and do her thing, but unfortunately not happening. It is all good, though. Instead, we have José Aldo in the co-main event versus Pedro Munhoz. The whole card's actually pretty good. Some name value for sure. It's a pay-per-view card. They have to bring the heat when they do such a thing. Make sure to, guys, smash that like button. Guys, I need at least on this video 200 likes for these UFC 265 full card predictions. Subscribe if you guys are new here too. Appreciate everybody who's tuning in live. Love everybody who's tuning in on replay as well. I'm going to start it off and get these predictions on the road because we do have 13 fights to talk about. Pretty big card that the UFC brought us this week. Let's talk about the first one, though. It is Johnny Munoz Jr. versus Jamey Simmons. Now, this is an exciting matchup in the bantamweight division here. I don't necessarily think either guy has top-level staying power, but I think they could be mid-card bangers in the future, especially on the side of Munoz Jr. He has a pretty nice wrestling background, good kickboxing skill set. His kicks are kind of his best attribute. All right hands. Lost to Nate Maness in his UFC debut, but that's a forgivable defeat. It was a very competitive fight. On the other side, Johnny Munoz Jr., okay with his striking. Definitely is going to look to clinch up and wrestle here, but I think he's going to have a hard time doing that with Johnny Munoz Jr. I feel Munoz should be able to dictate the pace and where this fight goes. I'll pick Munoz Jr. to win by a unanimous decision. He's a pretty solid favorite to start it off, minus 260 to plus 220 at best value, minus 219. Potential parlay play, but he is, a younger fighter on the card. But I really do think he wins this fight against Jamey Simmons. If it's at the lower levels of the minus 200 range, I do think there's potential for a bet there. So I do think Munoz for the victory. Pretty confident in that prediction as well. Let's keep on moving up the card. Victoria Leonardo and Melissa Gatto. Gatto has a lot of momentum, at least at one point. I mean, honestly, halted momentum, I should say. She was, 23 years old, 22 years old. She beat Karol Rosa. That was, nearly 3 years ago. She got signed to the UFC. She never fought in the UFC. She was supposed to fight at like UFC 237. Injuries have plagued her career, and then COVID, travel restrictions and whatnot. Victoria Leonardo on the other side, coming off a disappointing loss to Manon Fiorot. Granted, not all that surprising. Leonardo's an all right striker, but definitely has a pretty pressure-heavy style, can break lesser girls. I do feel, though, Gatto has very dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills off of her back. Now, will the fight go to the ground? Her offensive wrestling is not necessarily her biggest shining point. I mean, she is fighting a girl in Leonardo with a good amount of professional experience. It's a hard one to pick here because we haven't seen Gatto in so long. I'll still ride with Gatto. I'm thinking second round submission, but not a fight that I would feel confident betting on. Just one that I'll sit back and watch here. And hopefully enjoy. I do think there's potential for it to be an entertaining battle. Gatto minus 125, Leonardo plus 105. At best value, you can find Leonardo at plus 120. I like Melissa Gatto for the win here, though. But granted, betting-wise, kind of a pass for me. Let's get to the next fight. It's Miles Johns and Anderson Dos Santos. We were supposed to see this fight a couple weeks back on that Islam Makhachev and Thiago Moises card. Instead, we see it now. On one side, you have Miles Johns, who's an explosive prospect. Does have some decent wrestling that he can threaten with against a lot of opponents. Definitely some knockout power in the hands, especially the right hand. Put pretty skilled fighter in Kai Kamaka III unconscious in their fight. Anderson Dos Santos on the other side, a pressure style of striker. He looks to explode with strikes when he gets inside range. Kind of overly powerful, though. He pretty much throws all power, will use his jiu-jitsu at times, and can get fights to the mat, though I think he'll have a hard time with the athleticism and wrestling ability of Miles Johns, and for that reason, I will pick Miles Johns to win this fight. I do think by a unanimous decision. Odds at the moment have Johns at a minus 210 to a plus 180 favorite. At best value, Dos Santos is up at plus 187. I like Johns. I do think he's going to beat Anderson Dos Santos. Johns, the young prospect, versus the aging Brazilian veteran. Got to ride with the young prospect here and Miles Johns to win this matchup. Let's keep on moving up, though. It's Manel Kape versus O'Day Osbourne. I think we're in for an entertaining match between these two flyweights. On one side, you have Kape, who was a rising veteran, had win over Kaya there. I mean, he's fought top-level competition. Skill set-wise, southpaw does have pretty good pressure striking and does control range and controls the cage fairly well against opponents. On the other side, Manel Kape, though, who is longer and taller than, O'Day Osbourne, who is longer and taller than Manel Kape. A southpaw with a rangy striking style. Now, he does have a pretty solid straight left hand that he used to knock out a guy whose name is totally escaping me at the moment, Jerome Rivera, who's not UFC caliber necessarily there, but he did put him to sleep quick in that matchup. He controls range with his reach fairly well, but I do think Kape gets inside. I think Kape potentially wins the clinch and wrestling battles here. I will ride Manel Kape to win this fight by a unanimous decision over O'Day Osbourne. Kape, odds-wise, minus 185 to Osbourne, plus 160. At best value, he's up at plus 171. I like Manel Kape to win this matchup. I do think he's going to beat O'Day Osbourne here, and I think the pressure and the grappling will make the difference in this fight. Decision win for Manel Kape. Next one, prelim bout, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Jessica Penne. How bad has Kowalkiewicz looked? She is on a 4-fight losing streak. Penne should be on a 4-fight losing streak. I thought that Godinez fight could have went the opposite direction. It didn't. Tough situation for both girls. More activity, definitely on the side of Kowalkiewicz, but also more damage. She's been hit with a lot of strikes in recent years. She is a pretty decent kickboxer. Right hand is kind of her money punch. Will sometimes lean into it, though, and I think she finds herself getting hit off counters because of that. She does like to scrap, but the head is stationary. It worries me against a lot of girls. Granted, not really with Jessica Penne. Penne's boxing is pretty basic. Lots of straight punches. She'll look to clinch up. She'll look to get the fight to the ground. Does have decent jiu-jitsu. She is the taller girl and longer girl. She's got a 2-inch height and a 3-inch reach advantage. As bad as Kowalkiewicz has looked, Jessica Penne has not looked much better, but I still feel I have to go with the fighter riding at least a bit of momentum coming off a win. Kowalkiewicz doesn't look like she has it anymore, in my opinion. I may be wrong, though. It's definitely possible that I am, but I'm riding with Jessica Penne to win this fight by a decision, but not a high-confidence dog play here. Odds-wise, Penne up to a plus 113 at best value. Kowalkiewicz, you can even find her at minus 112. Near Pick'em's fight here. Weird women's fight between two girls on the downward slope and towards the real back end of the weight class. But yeah, I will ride with Jessica Penne, but it's very low confidence. There will be no money thrown down on the line for me on that fight by any means. No chance of me betting on that women's fight. Next fight, Ed Herman versus Alonzo Menifield. I like this light heavyweight fight. I think we're in store for a pretty entertaining one. I do think they'll mix it up on the feet. And I think we are going to see somebody go to sleep. Who is that somebody? I do think it's Ed Herman getting knocked out in this fight. I think second round KO for Alonzo Menifield. He's a pretty powerful striker. He does start fairly fast, and physically he is pretty strong. Kind of got controlled against Devin Clark, but serious grappling level difference, and Clark's just kind of hell to deal with grappling-wise. Ed Herman doesn't have that level of the wrestling. Herman is an OG vet. I mean, he was on The Ultimate Fighter Season 3. He was a finalist against Kendall Grove. That's insane to think about. He's gritty, he's durable, and he is a pretty decent striker. For me, though, I still feel Menifield finds a way inside. He lands the crisper, harder shots, and he gets a knockout of the 40-year-old Ed Herman in round number 2. I didn't really love Ed's performance against Mike Rodriguez either in the last one. Minus 235 to plus 200. Menifield being a fairly strong favorite. Best value, minus 224. Herman on the other side, plus 210 at best value. I'm not picking Herman to win. He's going to lose to Alonzo Menifield, and I think it's a second-round KO here. Let's keep on moving up the card because there are a damn lot of prelims. It's Drako Rodriguez versus Vince Morales. Okay, this fight right here is interesting because Drako is a hot prospect. He came in off the Contender Series as a dynamic striker with some serious power. And then he got slept by Amian Zahabi. And there's no disrespect to Zahabi, but he's just not all that great. Interesting enough, Morales does have a win over Zahabi, his only UFC victory. But 2-fight losing streak for Morales. He's been beaten up in fights. He is a decent striker, this being Morales. Wide stance is very susceptible to the calf kick. We saw that against Gutierrez. Granted, his boxing inside is actually pretty good. On the other side, Rodriguez, even though he's a good kickboxer, the chin comes up a bit high, and it's questionable. 2 losses by KO out of his past 5 fights. I think Vince Morales finds a way to the chin. I'll ride Vince Morales KO over Drako Rodriguez. I'm not sold on Drako just yet, and I think Vince Morales is potentially going to put him to sleep in the second round in this fight. Odds-wise, near pick'ems, Morales up at +110, Drako at -110. I like Vince Morales, the underdog, for a KO over Drako Rodriguez here. All right, let's get to the next one. Rafael Fiziev versus Bobby King Green. Featured bout of the night. Guys, they are spoiling us with a fantastic featured bout. I think this fight is going to sell them some pay-per-views because the matchup is off the chain. I think we're going to see absolute warfare striking-wise. You look on one side, you have Bobby Green, whose hands are always very low. Granted, it works well for him against most guys. Pretty slick 1-2, solid grappling game. I would just call Green just overall a confident fighter. Nice low kicks too, and does throw those lead leg side kicks. But on the other side, you have Rafael Fiziev, who is a different level of Muay Thai striking. His striking is dynamic. I would call him a dynamic kickboxer in MMA. He's got a high guard stance with nasty low kicks, extremely fast body switch kicks, lots of lateral movement. His striking overall is very quick. He finds the target at a very high level. His left hook is mean, but he can also go the distance. We've seen him win fights by decision. He doesn't just need to KO you. He has the gas tank, and that's why he's a big favorite here against Bobby Green. He's going to dominate for 3 rounds. Rafael Fiziev by a unanimous decision. Fiziev, odds-wise, let's see what Fiziev is looking like here. -310 to +255 at best value. -302 for Fiziev. +269 for Green. I don't see Green winning this fight against Fiziev. And I think KO is possible for Fiziev. But I'm still riding decision because Green is hellishly durable. Only 2 KO losses in his career. One of them to Dustin Poirier, who's, in a lot of people's opinion, the best lightweight on the planet right now. But we'll take Fiziev over Bobby Green, and we have arrived at that main card. So if you guys have not yet, smash the hell out of that like button. As I said, we need at least 200 likes on this video. Hope you guys enjoy these full card predictions, and let's get into the main card. It's Yadong Song versus Kenney. I am intrigued and excited by this fight here because, you know, Yadong Song could be on a 3-fight losing streak. He didn't beat Vera. It was a controversial decision they handed to him. Cody Stamann, I mean, that fight definitely could have went the way of Stamann on the scorecards. They called it a draw. So kind of been gifted a couple decisions. Coming off a loss, though, to Kyler Phillips, a legitimate loss. This is first, you know, at the highest level. He's a very athletic striker. Heavy with his hands, and he's fast too. He closes distance very well. He's got athletic movement. His base is very strong. His jab is good, and his hooks are kind of where his true power comes from. Left hook especially, but his overhand is deadly as well. On the other side, Kenney is a southpaw. He's actually got some really solid kickboxing. The ground game is very tricky to deal with. He's a judo champion. His low kicks are very good as well, and he likes to pressure his opponents. Now, he's not your typical wrestler style, which I think could give Song problems. I think Yadong Song is actually going to find a way to beat Kenney here. I'll pick him to win this fight by a unanimous decision. Odds near even. As of right now, Song is sitting at a -103. Kenney -117. Song all the way up at +102. He's an underdog on, I guess, what is that? Bet. I like the underdog, but we're back. We're back in action. All right. So with Yadong Song, I have him over Kenney here. I think he wins this fight. And I think it's going to be a Yadong Song unanimous decision. It's not an easy fight at all. It's definitely not an easy fight here to take on Kenney. But it's a matchup that I see Yadong Song winning. And I think he does it with a fairly high pace and volume style of attack. So it should be pretty good. I'm excited for this matchup. And I think entertainment value-wise, this is a great way to start this main card off. Absolute fuego. Let's get to the next one. It is Tecia Torres versus Angela Overhill Kill. This is a fight that I cannot wait to see because it's a rematch. You know, Angela Hill at one point looked as though she was emerging as top of the line, looked as though she was on her way to potentially challenging for a belt. Controversial losses kind of plagued her recently, but I don't think that it necessarily hurt her. Yes, it hurt her stock in those moments because she took L's, but I actually think for her long-term staying power, taking some losses wasn't the worst thing. I do think it kind of shows her grit and toughness and her tenacity to come back and continue fighting. You look, Tecia Torres beat her once. She's a hellish matchup for her because she has a clear-cut speed advantage. She's very light on her feet with a bouncy style, pressure-heavy attack. And she does explode inside the range with flurries of combination punches. Now, Angela Hill is a skilled kickboxer, and she does throw decent jabs and control the range decently, but certain matchups she does struggle in, and I feel like Tecia Torres is just kind of that matchup, and it's going to be for time and time again. I think that, unfortunately, there's not much of a shot, so I'm going to ride with Tecia Torres over Angela Hill. Again, even though I really like how Angela has looked as of late, I don't see her beating Tecia. It's just stylistically a hard fight. Minus 125, Angela Hill, plus 105, or even up to plus 128. I do think fight goes the distance would be the lock bet of this one, though, if you are not looking to play either side. That's already minus 300. Bookies know, and they don't want you to cash easy on that one. But yeah, we'll ride with a victory for Tecia Torres over Angela Hill on this main card of UFC 265, and we've arrived at it. Featured bout of the night. Vicente Luque, Michael Chiesa. Ooh, this fight is good, man. On one side, Vicente Luque, striking-wise, phenomenal. His kickboxing game is elite level. You saw that against Woodley. Granted, that's a washed Woodley. He still beat the brakes off of him. Nasty right hands. He's very smart picking his shots. His takedown defense is very solid. He's very strong in the clinch as well. He was able to beat T. Wood. On the other side, Chiesa is a dominating grappler, the antithesis style to the kickboxer Vicente Luque. He's very good in the clinch. His control is excellent. His trips and takedowns are phenomenal, and his top pressure is extremely heavy. He's beaten some good guys on the ground, and Michael Chiesa is not somebody to be slept on here. I think there's arguments on both sides of this fight. Odds-wise, it's sitting at minus 121 to Chiesa at plus 100. Even Chiesa's up at plus 115. Best value for Luque, minus 112. I feel, though, Chiesa will work a lot of clinching. He will fight with a very smart game plan. He is the taller guy. I think that'll be advantageous inside of the clinch. He will control Luque. I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining fight of all time, but I think Michael Chiesa wins by a unanimous decision and defeats the very hot Vicente Luque. Both guys, though, I think are true staples towards the top end of 170 at this point. I just think Chiesa stylistically edges him out on points here. So I will ride with him to win, and I do think by a decision over Vicente Luque. Now, co-main event of the evening time. José Aldo Jr. versus Pedro, the young Punisher Munoz. It's funny how they call him the young Punisher still, but I guess the nicknames always stick with you. This is a really fun fight for me. José Aldo has looked pretty decent at bantamweight outside of, that real hard loss to Pedro. He then, in his last fight, beat Marlon Vera in a competitive matchup, but Vera's a tricky fight because of his length. He does have a serious 5-inch reach advantage, also a height advantage by 1 inch over Pedro Munoz. Aldo's a modified Thai style of striker. He controls the center of the cage extremely well. usually manages range at a high level as well. He will pressure opponents striking. Watch out for his body hook. It's devastating. His low kicks are where he made his bread and butter for many years, but his boxing's actually really improved. I like his straight punches and how he uses his guard to defend punches. Defensively, he's sound. On the other side, Pedro Munhoz has a high guard style. He attacks with a very high volume of low kicks. He has become the calf kick king at 135 pounds. He destroyed Jimmy Rivera's legs in the last one. Solid left hook follow-ups also will be down to mix it up inside of the pocket. I think you run into trouble doing those type of things with Aldo. I think Aldo has a clear-cut speed advantage. He also has the reach advantage. It's very hard for me to pick against Jose Aldo here. I will not be doing such a thing. I will ride Jose Aldo for a win by unanimous decision over Pedro, the young Punisher Munoz, in the co-main event of the evening. And I do think it's a fight that will be back and forth and show the highest of levels of striking in MMA, because both guys towards the very top of the weight class. But I feel like Aldo is going to beat Munoz in this one. Odds-wise, Aldo slight favorite, -130 to +110. At best value, Aldo's -123. Munoz +116. I like Jose Aldo by a decision here over Pedro Munoz. And we have arrived at the main event of the evening. Guys, smash that like button if you haven't yet. We need at least 200 likes on this video. UFC 265 main event breakdown is here. It is a great fight. Derrick Lewis, the knockout king. Ciryl Gane, the technical heavyweight. It's honestly amazing to see someone so light-footed at heavyweight. Gane controls range very well. His straight punches are good, but he also really has some nice low kicks. I like his lead leg side kick. He does have speed over pretty much every other heavyweight. The way he moves is more so like a middleweight. Comfortable out of both stances, so technically he's also very sound. Fantastic body kicks. His straight punches are good as well. And he's honestly really underrated in the clinch. His grappling is good. He has nice trips from the clinch position. Granted, he's going to be outweighed by Derrick Lewis here by about 18 to 20 pounds. Lewis is a very big heavyweight. Comes in at the top 263 for his last fight. That was against Curtis Blades. Lewis is a knockout artist, and he fights really well against aggressive opponents, which Ciryl Gane is not. When you move forward on Lewis, when you try to wrestle Lewis, when you try to engage him, he's going to find counters. Gane is going to be a lot harder to counter because he does tend to control distance, and he's willing to fight more so off of the back foot. I do expect a lot of that here by him. Lewis has dangerous counter strikes. He has sneaky athleticism. His kicks are phenomenal. His blocking is a bit deficient, though. I think a lot of straight punches get through here. I do think there will be body kicks by Ciryl Gane. I don't think he's worried about going to the ground with Derrick Lewis. I actually think he'd be willing to engage grappling with Derrick Lewis. But I feel like strength-wise, Lewis has an edge, which will probably prevent Derrick Lewis from, even if he's on his back, from being there very long. I don't think Gane will have much of a shot for a submission. The high volume of striking versus Lewis, more the low volume one punch counter striker. You have to like Ciryl Gane here. I think he's going to stop Derrick Lewis inside of the championship rounds. I think round number 4, he stops a gassed out Derrick Lewis, and Ciryl Gane becomes the interim champion. And now we have a super fight between him and Francis Ngannou, the former training partners. The story's going to be fantastic. The fight is going to be great. Ciryl Gane, though, is a pretty big favorite in this matchup already. He's all the way up to -350. At best value, -270. So bet that now if you want to do such a thing. Derrick Lewis +275 dog. There's obviously a lot to like with Derrick Lewis by KO. Prop betting wise, let's see what's available at the moment. Lewis by KO is sitting up at +375. That's never a bad bet. Gane by KO, TKO +125. Gane to win by a decision is actually up at +195. So they're expecting him to finish Lewis more so than decision him, which I think makes a lot of sense here because Derrick Lewis is not a guy that's known for the best of gas tanks. He's going into the championship rounds where he struggled before. He was stopped by Mark Hunt in the 4th round, and I think Ciryl Gane also stops him in the 4th round to become the interim champion of the world. And there is a very interesting storyline between Gane and Francis Ngannou. Betting-wise, though, I will talk a bit of parlays before we get out of here. We have to give you guys some of the parlays to play. We'll go way deeper with the best bets video this week. Obviously, now we're just doing some betting tips and full card predictions, but we have to throw a parlay out there. I'm going to have to lay it on the line with Ciryl Gane, and I'll also have to parlay it up with Rafael Fiziev for -133 alongside of Alonzo Menifield for my $1,000 parlay. If it's something you guys are looking to play, I do think that is one that could definitely hit for us. If you wanted to add in more fighters than that, somebody that I feel could also bring high likelihood of success, you could potentially add in José if you're feeling him to beat Pedro Munhoz. But Munhoz is absolutely live here. Don't want to play Yadong, Kenney. Don't want to play the women's fight really here. Angela Hill, Tecia, Torres, not going to play that fight. Vince Morales, Drako, I'm not going to play that as well on a parlay. Maybe on like a high-risk one. But for a lock parlay, this is what you want to play. Intelligent bets, and don't push it too far. Going for something crazy. Maybe a high-risk parlay. I'd also add in Michael Chiesa to give me +409 for a crazy-ass 4-fighter parlay. But the $1,000 3-fighter parlay would be Fiziev, Menifield, and Gane. You can even remove Gane, and you'll still have a great parlay there. Overall, there's definitely going to be money to be made on this card. When we do the full card betting breakdown, that's really where things are going to get deep with the best bets to do. I will check up on that live chat, but if you guys haven't yet, smash that like button. As I said, I need at least 200 likes on this video. I appreciate everybody who supports the channel. If you're new here, subscribe here too. You guys know where to be here at MMA Experts. Let's see what's going on in this live chat. I do want to check up on it. We got some jokes early on by Mr. Nick over here. Free UFC picks. AJ, looking forward to this. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. What language do you... Oh, I'm not going to answer that, my friend. I was going to bet Amanda, but that fight was a turn. I know I would have bet Amanda Nunes as well. You think that Luque gets a KO win? I feel like if you look, Luque got taken down by Randy Brown. I don't know. I think that the game is going to be tricky, man. Mike Chiesa on the ground is dangerous, but Luque definitely striking all day. Yeah, Aldo's going to win this one. By a decision, though. Gane decision, you think? I think he gets a KO. I think he beats a tired Derrick Lewis by stoppage. You got Bobby Green over Fiziev. I hope for your sake that it comes through, man, but I don't know how likely that is. That's a hellish matchup there. Aldo, Fiziev, Gane. I also like Menifield, too. I think it could work. How much money did I make Saturday? Let's just say not a ton, my friend. Not a ton, unfortunately. But some bets were placed, man. But some of the fights did shaft me a bit. Overall, I do want to give this card a review, too. Make sure you guys note this down, the money 3-fighter parlay there. I'm thinking this right here for a pay-per-view. The actual pay-per-view portion is definitely B+. Man, I'll say B. Nah, B+. I'll call it B+. I'll be nice. Overall, this card is a B card. Not terrible. Not the best card the UFC's put out. We lost a killer fight in the co-main event. But I still think we're in store for an action-packed event. So I am still excited for it, man. Luque has been submitted twice. I don't think that Chiesa will submit him, but I do think Chiesa will control him from top position. Yeah, last week was a wild week. How's Fiziev on the ground? We haven't seen a ton of his yet, but he isn't terrible. And in the matchup against a very dangerous Brazilian whose name right now fully escaping me, but I will pull it up. Renato Moicano. He was able to stop the takedowns and knock him out. Granted, Moicano is a guy that's willing to engage striking, which sometimes is a problem. And hey, I appreciate it, man. I'll be back with plenty more content this week. As I said, I got the full best bets video dropping. We'll break down the whole card. Got an individual podcast breakdown for Gane versus Lewis. That should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about some of the other fights on the main card. So if you guys haven't yet, make sure to tune into the podcast because we take it super deep. And we also have a fun casual time. You can see different look, not as serious, not as professional, but a chill little podcast where we talk down the fights, talk about trending MMA topics. So yeah, tune into the Fightcast. I will be dropping it sometime this week. Really is going to depend on when my co-host can do it, and then when the editing process all gets finished, which shouldn't be too bad. So it should be pretty fun, man. Yeah, Fiziev does have very good takedown defense. You notice that with a lot of high-level kickboxers, they just have great hips. I think Menifield beats Ed Herman. He's going to pressure him. I think the first round, it's going to be a lot of clinching. I think the second round, he'll land some big power strikes, and I do think he will drop Ed Herman with potentially a right hook. I feel like Menifield has ran into a couple of tough tests, but I still think Menifield is a good prospect and somebody to watch, and I'm not all that impressed with the recent Ed Herman. But that's pretty much it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Smash the hell out of that like button. I appreciate you all for being here. We got more live streams coming this week. Keep it locked in at MMA Experts. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications too. Have a great night, everybody.